Welcome to VIP Boxing's Bell to Bell podcast, episode 74. You're watching on YouTube, Spotify, what else is there, iTunes. Leave us a review, and that would be great. And if you could subscribe to VIP Boxing's YouTube channel, even better. Steve Wood, the chief of VIP, will be made up. I'm Steve Lillis. With me, as usual, we've got co-pilot John Evans, familiar poster behind him of one of the many iconic fights that he sits there and watches all night. And with us this week, one of the prospects from the VIP stable. Well, maybe, I don't know if you call him a prospect. He's working his way through nicely, getting up to 8-10 round standard pretty soon. He's coming back off a little setback. Luke Evans, how are you, Luke? And thanks for joining us.
No, my pleasure. Really well, thank you. Hope you both keeping well and enjoying the boxing recently.
It's been a lot of it. It's been a lot of it, mate. As I mentioned, you had a bit of a minor setback recently. Without dwell on it too much, you've got back. You're back on the horse pretty quick, I understand. And I saw you was with your trainer Matthew Hatton on social media today. Like you was sitting around the desk with a pen and paper. You look like you was back at sixth form or something. Where everyone else had bunked off, and you and Campbell Hatton, the only ones that turned up at school for the afternoon. The table was that big.
Yeah, it was like being back at school. We trained early this morning, and after training, we went to Matt's house and we discussed our previous fights, where we can improve, where we can, work on things, aspects in our game. And I pinpointed a few things myself. Matthew pinpointed a few things, and we've got time now before I'm back in the ring to, work on them things that almost cost me in that fight. In my last fight, was a tough fight for a 6-rounder. It was like 10 rounds of action crammed into 6. I suffered 2 knockdowns, got up, and even gave a better account of myself. So a couple of boxes ticked. Like I said, I can't dwell on it. I wanted to be out quite quick again, and I've got this opportunity now to fight in my hometown as well. So yeah, I'm buzzing.
I'll tell you what, Luke, that was the best draw you could get, wasn't it? Really, if you've not seen it, people watching this have not seen it, I'm sure there'll be a video up somewhere. It's a hell of a fight. But we were talking
the week before it. You mentioned
the week before the fight, we were on this show and John Pegg was on, and I was saying, Luke's phenomenally talented, and we said, but there comes a point with all these young fighters where they get hit, they might touch down, and then you see how much they really want it, and that's exactly what we saw, Luke, wasn't it? God Almighty, you showed exactly how much you wanted it that night.
Of course, and I think if that possibly could have been an 8-rounder. I think he may have touched down himself. I mean, he was hurt quite a lot in the fight, and I won't deny that I wasn't hurt, because that second knockdown I was really hurt. The first one was a flash one, but the second one I was really hurt. So I had to show true grit and show me character and show I'm not just some skinny, clean boxer. I had to dig deep, and it became a little bit gritty.
But I will say something, Lou. It looked to me, and it's probably the same for a lot of prospects. You came out looking to impress. And the pressure on you must be phenomenal, really. You must, all week they were saying, what an opportunity, or this is where my career could change. When you boxed his head off. Yeah. When you got involved, it became a war because he could fight and he could punch. But did you feel that pressure before the opening bell to put on a show?
You know what? I think fighting at the arena, it's a massive event in itself. But like I said, it's the people around at ringside. It's the people you want to impress. The eyes are on you. And, for someone else who's probably going to be in a similar position, my best advice to them would be, don't think about who's outside the ring. Think about what you need to do to get the win. And unfortunately, I started off a little bit too eager, and that later cost me down the line. Whereas if you just referred to, then if I would have just boxed him, got behind my jab, went back to basics, would have been an easy night's work for me. I just didn't want to make it boring, and obviously I wanted to make it a fight.
Mission accomplished there, Jesus.
Yeah, it was a right down.
All right, then we'll kick off with this. And you mentioned the word having to show grit. And round 1, John, have you got your bell and everything
Everything's ready to go, yeah.
You're talking about TV for free and someone boxing on TV who's got to show some grit this weekend.
Yeah, I tell you what, I'm looking forward to this one. Some fights jump out at you, don't they? And Linus Adolphio and my mate Denzel Bentley, who we seem to speak about a lot on here, I think it's a great fight for a British middleweight title. They're both exciting. They can both punch. They've both got knockout power. Udolphi has stopped decent people like John Harding. We've seen Denzel stop decent people on his build-up. And this will mean the world to them both. Denzel, you could say it's a bit of a crossroads fight. If he loses to Udolphi after losing to Cash, he's in a bit of a tricky position. Maybe Udolphi is the one who can afford to lose. But I just think it's really good that Channel 5 are showing such a prestigious title. It could be absolute fireworks. And whoever wins, they're made for TV, aren't they? Big personalities will capture a bit of the imagination of the people who are watching. I can't wait for it. I think it's a real, one of the standout domestic fights of the year so far, this one.
Luke?
Yeah, I think it's a great fight between two really good upcoming fighters. I mean, I know Denzel Bentley's suffered a setback draw himself with Mark Efron and the loss against Felix Cash, but I'd like to feel like he's been at the higher level compared to Linus Udolphi, who's 17 fights in, 9 KOs, so he's got a respectable record, and he's won an English title as well, so he's looking to make that step up. It's a really interesting fight, a good clash of styles. Bentley can hit as well. He's 13 KOs in his fights, so you know it's going to be an interesting one, and I think the boxing fans are the winners of this one. It's going to be a good fight.
Yeah, I love the fight. I just touched on something you said, John. When you told me you're going to mention this subject, I had a quick look when he lost to Felix Cash, and there's no way Denzel, at this stage of his career, can afford 2 losses in 13 months at this level. Absolutely no way. If he loses this, his only way of staying in the picture is getting thrown in somewhere in an 80-20 fight against him. But you know what? I really hope the fight lives up to what we all expect, because you think Channel 5, I know with them Mick Hennessy shows, they were getting 1 million viewers, some of them. So they're going to get 1 million viewers there most probably this Friday. That'll be the most watched fight in Britain so far this year, in my guess. I mean, because everything else has been subscription and pay-per-view.
And I tell you what, Channel 5 have picked good fights. Those 1 million viewers have had some treats, haven't they? They've had the Dil Magani fights, they've had Sam Eggington. They seem to have had fight of the year for 3 years in a row.
And they might have another one here. It's a great start for Wasserman. I mean, I think Mick was unlucky to, somehow it seems like he's lost the deal he had there, but Wasserman have got a big chance here and a big audience. And, you know, they're selling the fights well enough, the way they're using social media. So, you know, they could get even bigger viewing figures than what Hennessy Sports are getting. I mean,
it's got a good little
viewers. Sorry, Luke.
Got a good undercard too. Sean against Harlem Eubank, which is a good steel. Right. Good clash of styles too. So it's going to be an interesting show, that.
Round 2, over to myself. Just go back in time. I'll tell you what I thought of this. Larry Holmes, Jerry Cooney. It's 40 years in a few more next month, I think, since they first fought. And they're over in Britain next week or later this week, next week, doing a few dinner shows. And I just wondered where you guys thought, I know it's mythical almost, where they might stand in boxing today. You know, you look back at Cooney's career and, you know, I go back to that. I'm a lot older than you two, so I can remember that fight so clearly. And I think it was Dennis Rappaport who had Cooney, Don King had Holmes. And they really brought in bad racial overtones for that fight. Things you would never get away with and shouldn't in these days. But you know what? I just wonder where they would be. Obviously, Larry won that, I think, the 13th round in a really, really good fight. You know, but how good was Cooney maybe? He could punch, he jabbed well. Yeah, he could throw combinations. Norton was past his best, but he got him out of the way brutally. You know, he stopped Jimmy Young, albeit on cuts, but I think Ernie Shea was the only other man to do that. I just wonder where you thought they might measure up today. Particularly you, John, so I know you're big on all these 80s guys.
Holmes would be at the top, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
Holmes would be right there, right in the mix of it all. A lot of people say he's one of the greatest top 5 of all time, don't they? And Holmes would be right up there. But Cooney's the interesting one. I'll tell you one fight which would definitely get made. The clash of 2 fighters with Irish backgrounds. You would get Fury against Cooney.
Yeah.
Talking at each other. The build-up would be great, and it'd be an entertaining fight, wouldn't it? Cooney would certainly go down swinging. I think Cooney would have the beating of a lot of these guys.
Yeah, I do.
I think he's probably underrated a little bit. I remember...
Yeah, definitely.
The videos I've watched of that fight, a lot of people didn't give him a chance, did he? You know, you had people picking him for certain reasons, but I think the actual boxing fans thought Holmes would go through him. But Cooney actually fought really well, didn't he, until it got turned around. And I think he would probably be doing a little bit. He would certainly have a beating of people like White. That's what I would say. So you can put him top 5 modern day, can't you?
Do you go back that far, John? Do you study these two at all? I mean, sorry, Luke.
Yeah, I mean, I know Larry Holmes, definitely. I mean, Larry Holmes' jab, the Eastern Assassin, you know. If you don't know Larry Holmes, you don't really know boxing. I mean, looking back at the fundamentals of boxing, the jab is the key. And Larry Holmes had one of the best jabs of all time. And he was a brilliant heavyweight, boxed at a very high standard, won lots of world titles. And he beat the greatest, in my opinion, Muhammad Ali. So, yeah, he was a brilliant fighter. And Jerry Cooney, again, he's another great fighter who used his left arm a lot, used his left hand a lot. Yeah, done some great work with his left hand, left uppercuts, left hooks to the body and head. And yeah, it would have been interesting to see how they'd fare in this generation. I don't know how they'd really fare in this generation, but if you're looking at the fighters now, it's like Tyson Fury, you know, I think Tyson Fury could kind of be in the 80s if that made sense. Yeah. But I'm not sure if Larry Holmes or Jerry Cooney could be in the 2020s of boxing. I just couldn't see it. Possibly Larry, but yeah.
So you're going to keep talking. You're earning your bag of wine gums we're going to send you for this, Lucas. One of your first topic was Kell Brook. So you just talk about him for 3 minutes and John and myself will sit here and listen. We might come in.
Yeah, Kell Brook. Wow, what a career he had. Boxed some amazing fighters. And he done it the hard way. He came up through the British route, won a British title. I remember Kell Brook's first fight when he boxed Michael Jennings. Yeah. That was the first I remember of Kell Brook. And ever since I've been a fan. I know he boxed my trainer, Matthew Hatton. Matthew went the distance with him, which is a good achievement in itself because Kell can bang. He's a heavy puncher. And I think it was billed as the War of the Roses, I believe.
Yeah, Sheffield, yeah.
Yeah, and Kell Brook, yeah, he was a very experienced fighter. And, you know, I think he's called it in at the right time now, personally. I don't want to see him fight again. And he's had that defining victory as well against Amir Khan. And that is, in my opinion, the cherry on top of the cake. I'd like to see him bow out now. You know, the money sometimes talks, but as a fighter, as a person, as a fan of boxing, I wouldn't like to see him fight again. I think he's made the right call.
I'm certainly won't fight again. We were talking about it the other week. I was fortunate enough to be with him at a fight overseas. Was it a couple of months ago I mentioned this, John? Yeah. About 4 weeks after the Khan fight. And then he turned down $6 million to fight Eubank. So he's been stringing these promoters along, giving them mad prices, and in the end, they've all given up. He's turned down $6 million to fight Eubank. I'm absolutely delighted he's retired. And as you say, the Khan win was the icing on the cake for much of his career. He was in the shadow of Khan, pretty much like Junior Winter was with Ricky, really, you know. Maybe not to that extent, because you know he had a lot more success than Junior. What do you think, John?
Do you know what? Kell's been... I was at that fight when he fought Michael Jennings.
Yeah, I was,
really good win, because Jennings could fight, couldn't he? But yeah. I was just thinking about Kell's career, that fight with Matthew Hatton. I was there then as well. Yeah. And that was like right at the start of his Sky Sports era, wasn't it?
That's right.
Yeah. Kell was one of the first fighters Matchroom signed, and he's been there right the way through, you know, to arena shows, selling out Bramall Lane for Errol Spence.
Yeah.
Fair play to Kell Brook, you know, he bubbled under the surface a little bit. He didn't get the fights we wanted. There was a period there, 3 years maybe, where he wasn't matched properly, and I think his peak probably just about passed him by. But for someone who didn't get the fights he wanted, he's ended up fighting some of the best of his era and doing himself proud. And yeah, I'm glad he's not sacrificing his body for the sake of a few extra quid as well.
Yeah, the British box.
Round 4, John, over to you. Boxers obsessed with moving up.
Do you know what? It's not so much the boxers who are obsessed with moving up. I'm getting sick of these people on Twitter with the thumbs hovering over the phone watching the fights, slagging off people for not moving up in weight. What's wrong with just dominating your division for years? What's wrong with it? Look at Marvin Hagler. No one slags off Marvin Hagler for not picking up a super middleweight title, do they? I honestly think if you can hold your weight for 7-8 years and be the man, all comers can't beat you at that weight. That's way more of an achievement than moving up and down, picking up belts, picking out weak champions and just adding these trophies to your legacy. I think there's much more to be said for being the man at a weight division than there is just picking out a weak challenger. But the one that got me on this one was I saw someone at weekend, Terence Crawford said, "Oh, I wonder who's pound for pound number one." And people were criticising Terence Crawford for not moving up to middleweight to fight Golovkin. You move up to middleweight and fight Golovkin, and then you can call yourself number one. Crawford's come up from lightweight. People are just idiots, basically, and let people dominate the weight class they're born to be in.
Luke,
there you go.
Good rant that for you. Very good. Go on, Luke. You can follow that, Luke, because I can't.
Yeah, boxers, like I said, boxers' obsession. I mean, some like to go up in weight to challenge themselves and set new goals and records. But some people can't make the weight sometimes, and they have to go up. And some fighters are too lazy to make the weight. But as John said, if you can dominate a division, like Alvarez did at 168, you've got to look at other challenges. But how many challenges is there in that weight division? How much financially does it make sense to stay in that division? And if you're hearing things like Terence Crawford go up to fight Golovkin, it just doesn't make sense to me. As a boxing fan, it'll be amazing, but I don't really want to see that. It just doesn't make sense to me. We have weight divisions for a reason, and if you're comfortable making weight, then why? Like, obviously, I think it's different, but I'd stay at the weight. If you're winning fights and you're comfortable at it, you stick at it. If you can't, move up a weight and challenge yourself again.
That's it.
Maybe, what when they're moving out, like these guys that been moving from feather and super feather to lightweight and jumping between the weights, I maybe get that a bit more because there's so much money at stake in those divisions, John. That's where I will, whether it's a pass out or what, it's just, I don't have too much of an issue with that when they're the featherweights to the lightweights, and we've had all this with Lomachenko and the round 5. Bit of another mythical boxing subject I'm bringing up. Talking myths tonight, me. I don't know. Something must be something in the Scottish air up here. It's about can you still count Canelo as number one, or has Spence got that? I mean, I'd say Spence takes over that mantle, given he's recent, the people he's beaten at welterweight. I just wanted to see who you guys have as your top 3 or 4 now, particularly you, Luke.
Yeah, for me, I'd have to look at Tyson Fury, possibly. Tyson Fury being number 1. I'd say Crawford 2, Canelo number 3, and Spence number 4. That's how I personally see it up to now. Based on the fact, Canelo, you could even count Bivol in the top 10 now because he's had that defining fight and he's beat the best, in my opinion. I thought Canelo was number 1. Now Canelo's got beat. You can't really, I suppose you could because he's challenged, but you can't really have someone coming off a loss and then still being pound for pound king. Just doesn't make sense to me. So I'd put Fury number 1, and then obviously the other fighters in that position. But I think Spence needs the Crawford fight, in my opinion, and he needs to beat Crawford to be the pound for pound champion, in my opinion.
Right, I would go Usyk, Crawford, Canelo, Inoue, Spence, and I'd put Usyk number 1 because he came through an absolute murderer's row at cruiserweight, beat them all in the backyards, came up to heavyweight and was sensational, beating Joshua with the best final 3 rounds I've ever seen a fighter pull out. 10, 11, 12, he was out of this world in the toughest bit of his career. So yeah, Usyk number 1, Crawford, I've never seen him come close to losing. He's number 2. Canelo's been great, but like I say, a bit of picking his opponents. He's gone up and down, flattered him a little bit. In a way, he's outstanding. And Spence, like Luke, I think he needs to beat Crawford.
Yeah, you know what? When I'm making my list, I went Spence and then Usyk because of that performance against the cruiserweight, of course. But I thought that performance against Joshua, because he was brilliant for 7 rounds. He had that 8th round where he was falling, there was he didn't show signs he's falling apart, but Joshua suddenly got in his rhythm and he was having to, in that 8th round, Usyk had to, despite the comfort of the win in the end, he was fucking biting on his gum shield and digging deep to find another way and then come and found it. And then I'll go with Inoue. I still have Spence. I'm having Spence as number 1.
Big shout. Does Crawford go number 1 if he beats him?
Yeah, you have to. You beat the number one. You've cast up. I want Raw Fury out against Usyk at all. So final round, we flow through this tonight. Luke, it's over to you. You want to talk about Canelo? What he might do?
Yeah, I'm just wondering what Canelo's best weight would be, because there was talks of Canelo and Usyk, and that came from Eddie Hearn direct. And don't quote me on it, but he said something that he really believes he could beat Usyk. And as much as you want to, be mythical and think about these potential fights, these video game fights, as I would call them, where you can put fighters in different weights and things like that. I personally think Canelo needs to go back down to super middle, and literally the fighters who are coming up in the divisions there, possibly a Caleb Plant rematch or a Benavidez, that type of, or Zurdo Ramirez. I think he needs to kind of go back down a weight, reassess things, and take on one of those challenges, because the weight he's currently at, I feel like he won't be as effective with his power punching. And I think everyone's kind of known the blueprint now. Canelo throws a lot of arm punches, and you're in for a tough long night. But that style, Bivol, the style that beat him, you wouldn't have thought that type of style would beat Canelo. I just thought Bivol was too big for him, if I'm honest, and he took his shots too good. Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, you said something there, video game fights, that's brilliant. I was thinking today about video game trainers we get in this book now, but I'm not going to start naming them. I've got, that they on this to get all the aggro I'll get, but there's a few of them. But no, back to Canelo. I'd like to, Bivol today has suddenly come out, I'll come down to 168 to fight him. So it just shows Canelo's still the cash cow out there, because Bivol knows at light heavyweight, and he's phenomenal. We've got to remember he's made 8 defences at light heavyweight. Eddie most probably thought Canelo was nailed on the other night, because he showed Canelo a video of the Spider Richards fight against Bivol, but he made 8 defences, and if he stays at light heavyweight, all he's got to look forward to is Beterbiev. Well, there's nothing like the money he got the other night, let alone Canelo. So no wonder he's willing to chop off his toes to make 168. And I think that's the only way Canelo will take the rematch. What I thought Bivol was brilliant the other night. We talk in boxing about doing the basic, and you might appreciate this saying as a bit more as a boxer, Luke, doing the basics well. But he did them so well. When he was punching, when Canelo was on the ropes, and there was a clip of a DAZN clip, and he was punching at range from Canelo, and even Canelo threw one back, it was never going to land.
Oh.
I tell you what, Canelo still showed a great chin the other night, I thought. But go on, John, let's get your.
I wonder if Bivol, he's had a quiet. I thought that was a brilliant thing for Bivol to say today.
Yeah,
a brilliant thing. But I wonder if he's had a quiet moment and he thought, right, what am I going to do next? Right, I can either have a horrible night in a Foxwood casino ring in front of 1,800 people against Beterbiev, or I can have a horrible week in a sauna and fight Canelo at 168. And he's gone for the sauna and Canelo at 168, hasn't he? But I thought that was a brilliant thing. It's kept the pressure on Canelo.
Yeah.
It makes it much more difficult for him to avoid a rematch, and it's the biggest fight in boxing. So yeah.
At 168
from Bivol today.
Mega. You'll question his greatness now, Canelo. You'll question his greatness, whether he'll want to be the pound for pound king or not.
Yeah. He's put it right on Canelo's toes, hasn't he? He said, if Canelo had said, light heavyweight's too much, I'm going back down. Well, Bivol said, I'll come with you. So we get to Canelo's got a question to answer now.
It's but that is you say that's the biggest fight in boxing. But I tell you, I felt. I'm a massive Canelo fan. I don't think you can't not be. But all these people saying Canelo dared to be great. Don't you think he's already proved he's fucking great?
Yeah.
I know he's had losses and controversies. The second half of the fight against Mayweather, he looked like a little boy lost. He was 22 fucking years of age. Might have been 22 when he fought Mayweather. The Lara controversy, but he's already proved he's great. He wasn't daring to be great the other night. I mean, he's already proven he's great.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah,
they're the standards you've got to live up to, Luke. If you're going to be great, you've got to... Canelo's not great yet, so that's what you've got ahead of you.
Wow.
I mean, I woke up here 4:30 in the morning and watched the fight. So I was fucking wide awake after that. So I'll go for a run. So I've got out early, went out, come back, thought I'd go through all the Twitter feed. What I can't get, just going off topic here again, I was running, let me just get rid of this. All these people who go on during fights and every minute they're fucking commenting on the fight. How the fuck can you watch it?
No, you can't make
scoring every round. So you're not listening to what's happening in the corner, how a fighter looks in the corner. They're doing 280 characters every minute.
Yeah.
Watch the fight, live for the moment, enjoy Twitter. We all love Twitter. Live for the moment, enjoy. You were seeing, the undisputed king of boxing getting bashed the other night, but more people. Anyway, yeah. I'm too old for this game, me, I think.
The same people who watch all the event, they go to an event and watch it through the phone.
Yeah.
Oh, don't get me on that one. Don't get me on that one, John.
Go on, Lillis.
Nah, look, right, go there, take a picture, but live for the moment. I love music. Go there. I'll always take a pictures. I love recording where I've been at a concert, and I'll take a 30-second clip. Do it for a fight. But they're doing that all through the fights. I mean, how can you not live for the moment? You've paid 60 quid for a ticket. Take a picture of your mates or a 30-second clip, but not all the fight. Why'd you pay your 50 quid for? You might as well sit at home on your telly or your computer and put your mobile in front of that.
So true.
Yeah. And the thing that always puzzles me about that is, what do we do with it? Do we sit at home and watch it again? You never...
Not bad and score it.
Yeah.
We'll have 5 different...
Through their phone. We're being a bit too savage here tonight, I think, fellas. But, Luke, I tell you what, you've been a brilliant guest, mate. Luke's up there with Ryan Walsh and Dill Magani. He's gone into that top 4 or 5, I think.
Yeah. Made for it, Luke.
Yeah, so we'll have you back on. We'll have everyone back on every couple of months. So around the start of July, before we pack up for the summer, we'll have you back on, Luke, if that's okay. Might even do it after your next fight, because you can tell us then the week after your next fight. Is it middle of June you're boxing next, isn't it?
18th of June at AJ Bell. Yeah, Steve Wood show.
Yeah, we'll have you back on the Monday. I'll write it down now. We'll have you back on the Monday after that.
Yeah, that'd be brilliant. No, thank you. Thanks, appreciate that.
Are you okay? Anything you want to add, John? Do you want to have another rant? You've had a little bit of a moan tonight.
Nah, I can't think of anything else today. No, it's pretty tame today. No, we had a bit of a quiet one, haven't we? Not one of the all-time rants, but it just drives me mad when suddenly this thing now for becoming great has become how many divisions can you do it in? And it's not about that. It's if you're a natural featherweight, like Nassim Hamed was never going to be. He couldn't have gone to super featherweight and lightweight. He might have had the power, but he was too small. He couldn't. He wouldn't have been the same fighter. But if Nassim Hamed had dominated featherweight for another 18 months, I'm just plucking examples out of thin air. I just think there's something to be said for longevity. Like Luke said, if your body's still allowing you to make the weight, just carry on. Unless there is a mega fight challenge that you can comfortably do. But I think there's too many people just jumping at the moment.
All right then, mate. Well, thanks for that, John. Thank you, Luke. Thanks everyone else who's watching this week, and we'll see Luke's. And I think we got Luke said he will. I texted him a couple of weeks ago, and he said this was when he could come on. Alex Dill Magani next week. I'll tell you what he'll talk about: video trainers. That's the sort of mob he won't have at all. Dill Magani. He's proper. You talk about old school, Luke. This guy should have. Dill Magani should have been around in the 50s, mate. He'll take that as a compliment, because I know he watches this every week. Yeah. Thanks very much, fellas.
Cheers.
For all boxing info, news, and latest interviews, amateur and pro, across the north, click and subscribe. VIP Boxing Promotions. Also, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.